So strategic verticals we're going after. The mining industry in Canada is quite a big one. The cruise ship business we've talked about extensively there. Venues are something we will get deeper into, and we'll talk about some of what we're doing on the venue side. And the construction industry has been a major area of focus with Bosted in Singapore as our partnership with the National Innovation Challenge there, as well as some other initiatives. Healthcare, we have our patient path technology that we've been implementing in the Singapore hospital system. Education, enterprise, we just recently announced a 60,000 unit deployment. There was sort of a global semiconductor company. And then our government work, and the continued government work is really around the inbound quarantine management and other things like that. The government work kind of crosses over into some of the venues when it comes to the international sporting events. Okay, you can jump into the next slide there. So just a quick word on hardware segmentation. So in the first top left-hand corner there, you can see and I can show it here. Let's see if I can change the kind of overall configuration of the screen a little bit. I'll show you what this looks like in real life. This is the wristband that you will see used, for a lot of the inbound quarantine and self-isolation stuff. It's really a nice hypoallergenic thing. So it lasts for about 14 days, self-contained. There's no charger. The battery is a single-use cell, and you power it up using the button here, and then that's with you. So it's on, just goes on your wrist, and effectively just clips in. Like so, right? And it's just like a hospital bracelet. And again, can't be recharged. So it's good from the perspective of understanding if it's, that it's a single use and single cycle for those purposes. So So that's the wristband. If we move along here, you can see this wristband sticky tag is what it looks like. This, and this is what we're using in a lot of more of the venues. I'll just go through to a full screen here. So this is taking a lot of the technology that was in the hospital band and just shrinking it down and making it a little bit more disposable. Also getting to a lower price point. So this is something that could be used in a stadium setting or just a very, very single use type setting. So we're working with a number of venues, ticketing companies, and other organizations for this here as a way to potentially even turn this QR code into a ticketing item itself. And so that's a real kind of change when it comes to the products. This has been a new initiative that we've been working on. This is the same technology that was used in the World Juniors implementation. So they just had this little tag here. basically on the back of the credentials. So this was there. I actually can't see any of the questions. We had a bit of technical difficulty coming into this broadcast, so I wasn't able to see what was going on. But hopefully I'll get some questions. So yeah, this is a new type of implementation that opens up new market segments for us. So we've got the government market segment. We've got it's using the hospital band. We've got this new, hopefully, ticketing segment that's undergoing testing and things like that now. This could be even used in restaurants. So really interesting use cases associated with this as a form factor. So taking our technology platform and moving it to different areas. Our clip is a bit different. Actually don't have one. There's one over in the other office. The clip is something that can just get clipped onto a lanyard around your neck, or clipped onto a vest or anything like that. This is much longer battery life, a little bit higher price point, but this is for somebody who's going to have this on permanently at their workplace, and works really well for that from a battery efficiency standpoint and everything else. Now this will be actually, if you look down on the bottom right, will probably be replaced with this multi-form tag. The multi-form tag looks a bit like a poker chip if you stack 2 or 3 poker chips on top of one another. Has some lights and some other things and audible chirps, and that is going to be used primarily in our cruise ship form factor, and as well as any other enterprise setting. We like it a little bit better because we like it a little bit better because it's engineered to do multi form factor, so it can be worn around the neck, it can be worn as a bracelet, it can be worn in a sort of a whole host of situations. So a little bit more multi-use. The clip was really like a fast to market product, really filled a need at a time when we needed to deliver devices, and we expect to continue to support that. But the multi-form factor is just a little bit more versatile. So if we go to the bottom left, you can see the hard hat tag. So the hard hat tag has a siren, has lights, has a lot of things that are geared more towards heavy industry. Heavy industry being, we originally developed this for Bosted, and it was critical for them to have something that was quite loud and could be overheard amongst heavy equipment. And it was really important that it blended in to the the equipment. As far as you don't want to have maybe a bracelet isn't the right form factor at a construction site. You don't have something that you don't have to think about at all. You're always going to be wearing your hard hat, so you build it into the hard hat. It also supports physical distancing. So when you get too close to a coworker, the admin has the option to turn on the social distancing notification on or off, and that's really beneficial on a lot of these sites where there's a social distancing requirement. So the safety officers are sort of enforcing that. If we go bottom middle, that's our card. This is for enterprise usage. It's a very thin form factor and looks really nice. It could be used, this can actually become a credential. So when it comes to venues and special events, this can be actually the whole credential itself. The battery is quite long lasting and very thin, so people really like this. This is a form factor for certain higher end destinations, like certain resorts where you're going to want to have something like a key card that's going to give you access control to your room, but also give you the contact tracing. So just quickly, and then the last one we sort of went over was the multi-form tag. That's the poker chip form factor, and that's going to be great. So the devices themselves, when you get into the card and the multi-form tag, they can serve a lot of different purposes. You can put a lot of different radios in there that make sense for different use cases, making them kind of a universal device. The universal device being payment, access control, and contact tracing. So just a quick note about when we talk about these major deployments, and one of the learnings we had was that pairing the devices was just happening too slow when it came to what we're doing. You see at the border crossings, there's a device pairing, there's a queue. It's usable, it's workable then to have a 30-second to 3-minute device pairing time because there's a natural kind of cadence to how people are being onboarded. But when it comes to large-scale deployments in an enterprise environment or otherwise, if you just stack up linearly a 2 or 3 minute device pairing time, it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work for an administrator. It doesn't really work within the job flow. So we figured out something. We re-architected the product so that we could have instantaneous pairing times, and that has to do with how the devices are sent from the factory, and the way we onboard user information. But you're talking about 1 or 2 seconds maximum per wearable, which is you compare that to 30 seconds or 30 seconds to 3 minutes, which is where we used to be at and where our competitors are currently at. It's uncomparable. And so that's a major advancement that we made. That was something, in concert with our work with Deloitte and our major semiconductor customer. It became apparent that this was a feature, or it became apparent that it was a problem for the users, and we needed to find a solution. So we developed a solution that's working really, really well. Okay, let's jump to the next slide here. So talking about software updates. So we have a brand new design for both iOS, Android, and our web applications. And there we have, this is just learning about, how people use the product, getting feedback from customers, and really improving both visually and the user experience, how people move through the product. All of those learnings have gone into these new updates. So this is making a big improvement over where we were at with some of our apps and design language. So our team's been really hard at work getting this stuff ready, and just the fact that we have functioning iOS apps for this, given the climate of around the COVID stuff, is really, really important. We've been able to navigate those App Store policies effectively, and have our proximity tracker in the App Store. The new apps that we have in beta are our IoT asset tracking. So this is the start of a journey where we're going to be able to get to the wearables that are on employees and users, eventually talking directly with environmental asset tags around a job site, which is a major step to getting that safety vertical and the safety services that we're talking about as sort of our post-COVID plays. That is in beta now, and there's some very exciting stuff, particularly around what we've been working with in the past when it comes to mapping and other things. So we're really excited about that product becoming a full-fledged release in the pretty near future. So as I talked about, we have these new powerful APIs for instant pairing and wearable assignment to the users. This is, it seems like a trivial thing, but it's a major breakthrough. It took a lot of technology, took a lot of kind of thinking through the problem and figuring out creative solutions. And so that's something that's been a major breakthrough. And then, there's a lot of new features, particularly around our big corporate deployments. We're getting rapid feedback and new product specifications from some of these customers, which are really improving the product on a really nice cadence, pushing us, on a daily basis. So, that goes back to Deloitte and their team that we're working with, and the semiconductor team, the cruise ships, getting great feedback from some of the pilot programs that we're operating there. So very, very positive stuff happening, and new features being integrated all the time based on feedback from customers, partners, and otherwise. I think we may have one more slide here. So one of those features is the heat mapping analytics. This is something that feedback we got from the cruise ship industry, basically talking about how do we understand where people are for how long, and when they're on the boat. And you can see a little bit of this in here. We're already collecting this data. It's already being stored in the dashboards. And it's a way to repurpose that data for specific business business intelligence purposes, to give these customers deeper insight into what's going on in their environments. This is seen as like a major value add to these devices, which is why we think we're going to have major staying power in most of these organizations, is because we're able to kind of layer on insights, layer on new service verticals, layer on new solutions. Once wearables are deployed into an environment, there's a lot you can do, and a lot of value that you can unlock with our devices and our platform. So that's a key area, and that's just like one example. The heat map analytics that helps them with restaurant staffing. It helps them with food ordering, all the kind of things that impact their bottom line. And but we're seeing use cases there constantly. I think we can move into a bit of Q&A here. I'll just go to some questions. I've been getting the questions texted. Okay, so congrats to the team on the 60,000 wearable contract. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. That's great. Grant Thornton, Fluor test a competitor. Can we compare? That's interesting. I'm not familiar with the Fluor tech test, but I know we're talking to a lot of these guys that are here. So I don't want to get too deep into some of these things, which may be under NDA or other things, but I'll just leave that one alone for now. Why not try to sell to long-term care and senior homes? That's a good question. That is an area that we're looking into. Um, the uh, the the long-term care facilities, I think, on the surface, it seems like they would be a incredible kind of opportunity. During COVID, I think a lot of those facilities were just fighting fires. They were sort of under siege, and they weren't really ready for kind of a new way of doing things while they were in that acute moment of pain. And that's completely understandable. They had people, getting very sick. They had staffing issues. They had all these things. Um, we think that the time frame for getting new technology into those facilities is probably coming up now, and so we would expect to be making new um, making our sales team making new discussions with those guys, and trying to get a foothold in that industry. And we have been doing that. So we've been talking to those guys constantly, just checking in with them, seeing where they're at. But the feedback that we got early on, particularly, was that they weren't ready to make big changes while they felt sort of under siege. David, with the recent contract for 60,000 units, was the clip money? Yeah, so there's a recurring platform fee that goes on an ongoing basis, and I think we've talked about this a little bit in our investor presentations, that we're moving from 80% of our revenue coming from hardware, 20% coming from software. We want to flip that and be having 80% of our revenue as SaaS revenue and 20% as hardware revenue. And at some point in the future, we could probably eliminate hardware revenue altogether, and just charge for the platform and devices on an ongoing basis. But with that major order from the semiconductor manufacturer, there is a substantial portion of the contract that's dedicated to software fees, and we think it's in the right direction, and the right mix for that particular customer for us to win that deal. Use cases associated with healthcare and government other than quarantine management. Thoughts on possible use cases? Yeah, so I think we should talk about that, Michael, maybe offline, and see how we can fit into those OHTP initiatives. And there may already be some traction from our sales team. So I want to make sure we don't cross over anything there. Does the rapid pairing that you've done for the semi-group reopen accelerate talks with tougher groups that may have been hesitant because of the delay? Yeah, I think it's a great selling point going forward, and can potentially. I think what it does is it puts us firmly in the lead when it comes to the category that we see the highest adoption rate is, on the corporate side anyways, is sort of the under 100 users and then over 5,000 users. That middle market doesn't seem to have a ton of traction, and if it has traction, it's sort of on a one-off basis. So the technology that we're trying to implement is to really address those global companies that have a steep need for the product, because they operate in multiple jurisdictions. Maybe they have production facilities in multiple countries. They want to keep those travel lanes open to them, and so they sort of have to comply with the strictest guidelines across their footprint. And so we see those people having the biggest impetus to engage and deploy the devices. So that's where we want to focus. Those are the biggest ticket items as well, and that's where we're going to see the biggest impact on earnings. When are we expecting financials to be released? We reviewed that this morning in another investor call, but we are going to try to get some unaudited or at least signal around what the unaudited financials are going to be. We do have a full audit ongoing, so we expect the audited results to be coming out sometime March, April, whereas the unaudited financials should be available fairly soon, or at least we will announce something fairly soon. I could say that we've had a historical 100% quarter-over-quarter growth rate, and that's intact, and we see that continuing. So that puts us on target. You can do the math and figure out where we're on target for those Q4 earnings based on that. And then the ex-dividend date for Airbeam shares, don't know yet. We're working through that. I think we're on track. Not for this. We had a near-term deadline of February 12th, and I think that's going to be pushed. But the good news is it's very positive what's happening on the Airbeam front, and on the just going through some questions here. Sorry. Ex-dividend date for the Airbeam shares, just touched on that. So we'll hopefully have an announcement around when our ex-div date is soon. Timeframe commitment. New website. So sorry, there's a ton of questions here. So our new website should be live, I think, in 4 to 6 weeks. But I will check in there. I know the team has been working on that, but there's just some design considerations that are going into it. Listing, I don't have any dates on when a new listing may occur or an exchange move may occur. Blair, have we approached larger construction sites, prime contractors in Canada, more directly Vancouver regarding your management system? Yeah, we've started to do some outreach there. And we've started at I would say more on the infrastructure construction side. Some of the names that we heard earlier, those bigger industrial players is where we've started, and we'll start to go down the rest of the industry very soon. Why did you put money in Airbeam? Was it an investment? No, I don't think there was a theme that it would utilize. Airbeam was before TraceSafe, so there wasn't a thought around kind of any synergy there. We just saw the assets as very strategic and very important asset set in the future in sort of the telco 5G landscape, and maybe someday there will be kind of an integration point, but I don't think it was central to the investment thesis at all. How long will the cruise test take? Yeah, so there's a whole series of cruise companies. They're all in various stages. They obviously have different start dates, different internal go live dates based on where they're sailing, where they're different jurisdictions. North America, the U.S. cruises are not going to be stopping in Canada. Looks like for the next few months, up to a year. But most of our customer engagement right now is coming out of Europe, and so we'll be able to speak on those a lot more. I think we're looking at probably 30 to 45 days on the testing front. But we may be able to see some contracts before that time, which would be nice. So I think that's it. I think we'll do just a quick half-hour session today. So hopefully that was valuable, and everybody's feeling a little bit more up to date, and looking forward to the next office hours. So next time we may have the ability to send some questions in a little earlier, and go through some more of that stuff. But just want to thank everybody for joining today. So there's a little bit of technical difficulties here early on in the broadcast, and thanks again. See you next time.